name is Russ Merrick, and I'd like to welcome you to the manufacturing facility here at Merrick Machine Company in Alden, Nebraska. Today what we have for you is the CN-4 component nailer. I'm going to go through a few things with you as far as how to uncrate the machine, pulling it off, doing a little bit of setup, things you need to look for, go through some of the operations of the machine, and some of the safety features that are equipped with the CN-4. The first thing is you get an overall shot of this machine. You'll see it's on a 4x4 wood skid. This is real similar to what you're going to get when your machine arrives. There'll be an outer skeleton around here. Grab your claw hammers, rip the outer skeleton off. One of the things I want to show you right off the bat, zoom down here, we've got carriage bolts holding the skid together. It takes a 9/16 wrench in 4 places in the 4 corners of the machine. Take the 3/8/16 nut right off with the washers. Okay, once you get those off in 4 corners, take your forklift, come in the center, down underneath these 2-piece angle iron in the main structure of the frame. So your forks will be right underneath. Get you a clamp or a pair of vice grips, clamp the frame to your forklift, okay? Then go ahead and pick it up. Pay real close attention, number one. This is our Dolly Bridge, we call it. Where's the Dolly Bridge in relationship to when you're picking up? If you're on one end too far, naturally the load will be off balance. Make sure that the Dolly bridge itself is in the center when you're lifting with the forklift. Pick everything up off the skid itself, drag the skid out of the way, set the machine in place. One of the things about, once you get it in place, nobody's floor is perfectly level. Always remember that. With the machine come anchor bolts. We've got a 1/2-13 anchor bolt that comes with it. You're going to need a hammer drill and a masonry bit. You can rent those at your local rental store somewhere in your town. Go through, drill through once you've got the machine in position, drive in your anchor bolts, lag it down, and you're all set. There should be 4 of those that come with each machine. Once you've got it into place, one of the things you want to start looking at this machine, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to need air supply and I'm going to need electrical. One of the things I have for you, I've got just a little pigtail. You can plug it into a 120 receptacle, or you can hog wire it in directly to your building, which is preferable. If you're going to a job site, just make sure you get in some reasonable power supply. The other thing that we require on a CN-4, besides the electrical, which is 120 volt, we've got an air line. The air line that you need to plumb into the machine, we look at for at least a 1-inch line to come directly to the machine so you don't starve it. You make sure, number one, that you have enough air supply to feed the pneumatic nail guns as you make your components. If you're at the job site, just make sure it's close to the compressor as possible. Once you've got your air hooked up and your electrical, the machine's set into place, you're pretty much ready to go. I'm going to start out on the top of the machine. The horizontal member that we have here across the top, this is our working area. And in the working area, we can actually do 10-foot components. Whether you're doing jack studs, cripples, elbows, corners, all that can be done and built on this machine. We'll go through that in just a little bit. If you're doing material or components that are actually longer than 10 foot, we have a flip-out stop. Go ahead and flip it out of the way and proceed on making your longer components. Initially, what you're going to do is take your material, put it up against your clamping bars, which are the yellow items we have here. Take your material, butt it up right against your stop. So all your components are square. We've got a fixed reference point from there. The clamping bars I mentioned just a minute ago, we have 3 clamping bars on the machine. One set, second set, and the third set. So there's 3 sets, 9 total clamping bars. The clamping bars shift in and shift out. They're on the adjustable side. Now let's say you're going to do a 2x12. How are you going to adjust the clamping bars to compensate for a 2x12? Well, underneath the clamping bar, can you get a good shot of this, sir? Okay, we've got a quick release pin. The pin's got a ring on one end and a ball detent on the other end. And you can manually, once you've taken the pin out, slide the clamping bar assembly in and out. There's a series of holes. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes. In the 5 holes, this is your adjustment, for instance, for going to 2x10, 2x12, 2x8, 2x6, and so on down the line. Get everything into place, put in your pin. Now it's fixed. You want to do your clamping operation, you would actually come in, hit both buttons simultaneously, and we'd actually clamp the material. We overstroke and we come in and clamp, so we've got plenty of room here. We have a maximum opening of 13 inches for the bars, so keep that in mind as far as your components go. Whenever you're done with that operation, you would hit the yellow button. The yellow button initiates unclamp. One of the things that we do require that you need to do from time to time, we have structural tubing here. The structural tubing, you need to take a little bit of oil from time to time. Just some air lube oil will do. You can buy this from us as well, or your local supplier downtown. Put a little air lube oil on each one of the bare metal, because we're actually sliding back and forth inside the steel itself while we're doing the clamping operation. You need to do that to all three of the clamping assembly shafts. All the shafts all the way down the line. Now, one thing I wanted to point out real quickly is you've got 475 pounds of clamping force. So when these come in, all of them, you got, 475 pounds. So you need to make sure your fingers are out of the way. And I'll go through some steps in just a minute on how to, the safety devices we have incorporated in this machine to stop that from happening, so no injuries take place. The CN-4 was developed so you could take your coal lumber, your scrap, the material you'd normally burn or throw away, and try and make good components out of it. Something that you can turn into cash. Take your idle manpower. If you're a lumber yard, for instance, you've got plenty of coal material sitting around and manpower. You can lay them into the CN-4 and make useful product to sell to the contractors. The next thing I want to show you, this is our Dolly Bridge that we have on here. And the bridge rides back and forth on a rail. We have a rail on both sides. And what we have is a V-groove. Take this off here for you. We have a V-groove wheel. The V-groove wheel, there's actually 4 of those on the machine. 2 on this side, which is the fixed side, closest to controls, and 2 on the opposite side, which can be adjusted to take up the slack, or as things wear, you can readjust that and get it in tight. If you want the bridge to move nice and fast, or you want it to go real slow, all that can be taken up on the opposing side, and I'll go through that with you in just a little while. The bridge itself travels and rolls down very quickly because it is on the V-groove wheels. One of the things I want to point out, we do have fixed stops on each one of the rails. Can you get a good shot of this? We actually have a shaft collar. This is an 1.25 inch shaft collar. There's 4 total shaft collars, 1 in each corner of the machine. And that stops the dolly rail from over traveling and falling off the rails. Make sure those are on tight. Check them periodically once in a while. They do tend to take a lot of beating as time passes by from guys sending the rail or the dolly bridge itself all the way down the line. There's quite a bit of mass up there, so keep an eye on that, please. One of the next things I want to go through with you is, as you can see, we've got some tools that are on here. They're in a horizontal position. The tools can be adjusted, readjusted, and they can be put in a vertical position. We have a palm clamp hand wheel casting up here at the top. We actually have 4 of them. They're all yellow color coordinated, so it's easy to recognize and spot. And what's happening here, Dave, can you get a close-up? Can you sneak in on this real quick? Anytime you screw this down, there's a plate attached to the hand wheel casting. We actually come in and clamp right on top of our aluminum mount block. Aluminum mount blocks are manufactured by us, and we'll make them to fit any nail gun manufacturer, regardless of who they are. We'll put this back in here, get this all set up. Everything just slides in. Quick changeover. We also accommodate, let's say for instance, you change nail gun manufacturers, or you change model of nail guns. The case may be. Different things that can happen there. All of a sudden we have to readjust the settings on how do we put new guns on. One of the things you can do here, on the back side of this assembly that my left hand's at, there's a strap that attaches to the main tube here. I'm going to pull this off one more time. lay it down. Takes that 9/16 wrench, loosen it up, this whole assembly will stay in position, it will not fall. The tool and put it up here to the top so you can see what I'm talking about. Loosen your palm casting there, screw it back down, tighten it into place. The gun stays nice and solid. We'll walk around once again to the operator's side. Now, I mentioned before, you're trying to look for that staggered nail pattern, and the reason why, you don't want to split the material out. So you can shift it back and forth, and once again I said I had a series of different stops, so you can shift it, fire a set of nails, shift back, fire again, and move on down. Fire, fire, shift each time. So it's real simple to go ahead and lay in the header, for instance, shift it back and forth as you work your way down the table. I'm going to go ahead and put these back in the position that they were, so I can go ahead and fire off this channel we have laid up here for you today. Make sure you get them good and tight. All the nail guns come with quick disconnects. You have a quick disconnect on the trigger system because we're actually firing the guns for you, and there's a quick disconnect on the main reservoir feeding the body of the gun. Okay, I'm going to come around back to this side. We've kind of gone through some of the features that are available here. I'm going to go through some of the safety things to show you actually how to operate our CN-4. One of the things we have here, I'll shut off the power system, I'll go through this with you. First thing we have is a power button. It's on and off. It's quite simple. As soon as you turn it on, a light comes on to indicate, number one, that you do have power. If the light doesn't come on, check your electrical connection. If for some reason everything's working, replace your bulb if it has gone out. Next thing we have for you is our next switch on the top hand row, left hand side, is near tool. Near tool will be the one closest to the operator, closest to me in the video. The far tool is the one opposing us on the opposite side. You can actually turn on or off whichever one you want. You can have them both on, or you can have one off or one on. The next thing we have for you is a yellow button, which is a clamp button. And the two outside green buttons are your clamp. Now, my material is loose. It's sitting in here right now next to my clamp bars. What I need to do is the operator has to come in, clamp with both hands. Both buttons have to be pressed simultaneously, and the material is locked into place. If you want to unclamp, hit the hit the yellow button, and now the material is free to be moved around. One of the things we do recommend is as soon as you've clamped the material in place, double check that this is what you want. You're making the correct component. It's a good opportunity. The next thing you're going to do is I'll demonstrate near tool operation. You notice the red handles that we have here. The red handles have a button depressed inside, and the operator has to go through, take his thumbs and press down inside in order to activate and fire the tools. The operator has to press both buttons at the same time. This is a safety feature, number one, to make sure that his hands or his fingers are away from the pneumatic nail guns at any one given time. We do the same thing when we're trying to clamp to make sure that the person's fingers don't get caught between the clamping bars and the material itself. Now, the near tool, as you noticed, what happened was the near tool stroked in, the safety, or the trigger itself, the trigger cylinder came back and fired. If I shut that off and I do it again, all that happens is the down clamp assembly comes in, the gun won't fire, it doesn't stroke in, nothing happens. If I do the far tool, I turn it in on position. I press my two buttons simultaneously, the gun strokes in, the trigger pull has actually fired, and the gun drives a 16-penny nail into the component. If I turn them both on, the near tool and the far tool both at the same time, actually come in, they both stroke in at the same time, The trigger pulls are both made. We're doing that for you at the same time when we fire it off. Now, as you notice, after I depress the two buttons in the red handles, it's not necessary that I hold the buttons down all the time. If I do hold the buttons down and continue to maintain the buttons depressed, the machine will sit just as you see right now until you let go of the two buttons. So for the optimum speed in building components, just hit the buttons, move the dolly, move the dolly, and there you are. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about real quickly, with our Triad design, with the tool mount blocks that we have, and the ideas and designs we've incorporated in the CN-4, we take a standard gun, no matter who the manufacturer may be. We don't modify the tool in any way. The safety is still the same that comes with the gun itself. The trigger itself remains the same, it's unaltered. We just have a U-bolt and we pull it with a cylinder. Everything is controlled with a series of timers inside the electrical control box as far as those operations are concerned. Now, the only way that can actually happen for this tool to actually fire is for the safety itself to be made once it's depressed against the material. If there's no material in the way, the gun will not fire. Even with the trigger being pulled, which are done with our operation, nothing will happen because the safety isn't made. Let's see. Nailing up a corner there. I'm going to get a couple boards here, show you a header operation. One of the things we want to look at, we're going to have to set this up in advance. So we're going to need to come to our clamping bars, the 3 sets that we have, the total. Readjust the clamping bars. To accommodate the material that we're trying to open here with. We're going to set up and do. Once again, take your material, make sure it's flush, butt it up against your stop, both pieces, so they're flush on the end. Your clamping bars are set. If you have a short piece, it's not necessary to go ahead and readjust your last clamping bar. Just take the two that are necessary, or the one for that matter. Once again, the operation is still the same. When you're clamping your material, the operator has to depress both green buttons at the same time. You come in, the clamping bars automatically move, the material is held fast and secure. Next thing we need to do is going to say, okay, we've changed the operation. We've got to take our guns, move the guns out of the position that they're at right now, and move them up here to the top, to a vertical position. Squeeze the palm hand while casting down right away. I'll go to the other side here, do the same operation. Slide it out. Get it right into place, and there we are. Okay, now we're ready and all set up to go ahead and do this header. One of the things I talked about before was the staggered nail pattern. How are we going to get that staggered nail pattern in here? Well, as I demonstrated earlier, there's a hairpin on the side with some stops over here. I pull my hairpin out, okay, move my stop blocks all the way to the farthest setting, okay, and what that does, that allows my carriage the maximum amount of travel so I can stagger my nail pattern through the length of my material for my header. Okay, you want to take a look at what you're doing. You want to also make sure, as you can see here, if I come down, I'm overstroking. So this is a good opportunity to look at what you're doing in your setup and say, all right, my material isn't wide enough, or it actually could be wider. I've got some smaller material here. So there's my nail pattern. I'm actually set up to do the correct material. Once again, this is a good opportunity to make sure the machine's set up, you're doing the correct operation for whatever component you're looking for. You come in, both tools fire at the same time, slide over, shift twist it back and forth for that staggered nail pattern that we're looking for. Pretty simple operation. Once you've got your header completed, the next thing you need to do is hit your yellow button, which is your unclamp button. Your 9 clamping bars will release once again. You're going to take your header material, pull it out, and you're all set, ready to go. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build an L for you here real quick. Butt everything up against the stop once again so we're flush with your material. Reset your clamping bar. You say, how do I reset my clamping bar? The clamping bar, as I mentioned before, has 5 predetermined holes in the bottom. Set your clamp about where it needs to be, just before it's close to the material as possible that lines up with the hole that your pin is sliding in. Okay. Now in this operation, we're looking at what we're doing. My clamp is actually set up, ready to go. And I say, okay, now what am I going to do with my guns? Well, first thing is, I don't really need this gun in the way, though it could stay where it's at. I'm going to go to the opposite side. Remove the tool, put it in a horizontal position once again, so I can nail this component. Okay, now, last time, as you recall, I did the staggered nail pattern. Well, I don't want to do that in this operation. I want to make sure my down clamp assembly doesn't move on me and I have the full force of the 160 pounds down against my material. So what I'm going to do is remove my hairpin once again, move my stop and my carriage all the way to the fixed stop on the opposite side, move my stop into place, put my hairpin back where it initially was. Now this carriage system doesn't move. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to say, well, in this setup and operation, I'm not going to fire my closest tool to me, so I'm going to come up to my near tool. Right now it's on. I'm going to shut the selector switch to the off position, and I'm going to make sure that my far tool opposing me is in the on position. So, now look here. What happened? I pressed the buttons and nothing happened, right? I forgot to clamp. Always make sure you clamp. Two-step operation. The machine has all the idiot things inside of it to eliminate an operator from making a mistake or completing the cycle without things clamped or unclamped. Now, things are in a clamp position. Material's tight. It's what we want to shoot. Depress the button. I fire on one side. Now I'm going to come back here in the center and I'm going to show you one more time. Here's a good opportunity to see the down clamp and also the center clamp that we have that comes down automatically each and every time. And there we are. We just made an L. Gentlemen, that's the CN-4 that we have for you, and ladies. It's a very versatile machine, and that was our intentions. It's a good little money maker, and if you have any questions about any of the operations of this machine or any other information, please feel free to call the factory at 1-800-666-7886. That's our parts and service hotline. That rings right into our parts department. We have about 3 guys standing on staff at any one given time. One quick note before we get away here, the manual itself, the manual that comes out with the CN-4, comes to you via UPS. You sign for it. It does not come with the machine. We send it out in advance so you have a chance to review it, get your people familiar with the operations of the machine. Each step, whether you're making jack studs, trimmers, corners, headers, all those operations are reviewed in the manual, and it explains how to set your clamp bars, and there's an illustration for each one of those components that you're going to make. So please review the manual, and once again, thank you for your time.